The world is not designed to make you stronger. It's designed to test you. Every day it will push you, distract you, and try to pull you away from who you're capable of becoming. And if you're not prepared, mentally prepared, it will break you. Because here's the truth. No one tells you life doesn't get easier. The challenges don't disappear. The pressure doesn't fade. What changes is if your mind is weak, every obstacle feels bigger than it is. Every setback feels like failure. Every criticism feels personal. But when your mind is strong, those same obstacles become opportunities. Those same setbacks become lessons. That same criticism becomes fuel. Mental toughness is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about knowing that even when things aren't fine, you're still in control of how you respond. You have to train your mind the same way you train your body. You don't build strength by avoiding weight. You build it by lifting it. And your mind works the same way. Every challenge you face is a weight. Every struggle is a rep. And every time you push through instead of giving up, you get stronger. But most people don't do that. Most people wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for confidence to show up. And while they're waiting, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass, time disappears, and slowly, without realizing it, they become weaker. Not because they couldn't be strong, but because they never chose to be. Strength is a choice. It's choosing to keep going when quitting feels easier. It's choosing to stay focused when distractions are everywhere. It's choosing to believe in yourself when doubt is loud. The world will test your patience. It will test your discipline. It will test your belief in yourself. And if you don't toughen your mind, those tests will defeat you. But if you do, if you build that resilience, that discipline, that clarity, then something powerful happens. You stop fearing the world because you realize the world doesn't have the power to break you anymore. You've already faced discomfort. You've already pushed through doubt. You've already proven to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. And once you know that, everything changes. So don't wait for life to get easier. Train your mind to get stronger, because in the end, it's not the world that determines your limits. Most people don't fail because they lack strength. They fail because they lack direction and end up wasting nearly all their energy on things that don't matter. You can push hard, wake up early, grind all day, and still feel stuck because effort without clarity is like running in circles at full speed. It feels productive, it looks intense, but it doesn't move you forward. The world rewards direction, not just effort. And yet, so many people are obsessed with becoming stronger before they even understand what they're trying to become strong for. They chase discipline without purpose, hustle without vision, and in the end, they burn out not because they were weak, but because they're misaligned. Clarity is uncomfortable because it forces you to be honest. It asks questions most people avoid. What do you actually want? Not what looks good to others, not what sounds impressive. What do you want when no one is watching and there's no applause waiting for you? That level of honesty is rare because it removes excuses. Once you are clear, you can't pretend you don't know what needs to be done. You can't hide behind confusion anymore. You either move or you don't. A clear mind filters noise. Every day, you are surrounded by opinions, expectations, and distractions trying to pull you in different directions. Without clarity, you try to respond to all of it. You say yes when you should say no. You chase opportunities that don't align with your path. You compare your progress to people who are walking a completely different road. And slowly, your energy gets drained not by hard work, but by scattered focus. When you are clear, decisions become simpler. Not easier, but simpler. You stop negotiating with yourself over things that don't matter. You stop wasting time on what doesn't serve your direction. Clarity doesn't remove difficulty, but it removes confusion. And confusion is one of the biggest reasons people quit. Not because the path is too hard, but because they're not sure if it's even the right path. Strength without clarity is dangerous because it amplifies the wrong things. If you are disciplined but unclear, you become consistently busy but rarely effective. If you are motivated but unfocused, you chase everything and build nothing. But when clarity comes first, strength becomes powerful, discipline gets directed, effort becomes intentional, progress becomes visible. The truth is, you don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't even need more skills right now. What you need is alignment. Because when your actions match your purpose, everything changes. Work feels different. Struggle feels different. Even failure feels different because you understand why you're going through it. Clarity also builds resilience in a way strength alone cannot. When you know why you're doing something, you can endure more than you ever thought possible. You can handle setbacks, delays, and obstacles because your reason is stronger than your discomfort. Without that reason, even small challenges feel overwhelming. With it, even big challenges feel manageable. Most people are trying to fix their results by increasing effort. They think the answer is to push harder, wake up earlier, sacrifice more. But if the direction is wrong, more effort only takes them further away from where they want to be. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. So before you try to become stronger, get clear. Before you try to go faster, make sure you're headed in the right direction. Because strength without clarity leads to frustration, but clarity with strength leads to transformation. People who rely on emotion quit when it gets hard, while people who rely on discipline keep going long enough to change their entire life. Emotion is powerful, but it is unstable. It rises fast and disappears just as quickly. One moment you feel motivated, inspired, ready to take on the world, and the next moment you feel tired, distracted, and full of doubt. If your actions depend on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. You will start strong and stop early. You will dream big and act small, and over time, the gap between what you want and what you do will grow wider. Discipline is different. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It does not wait for the perfect moment or the right mood. It shows up regardless of your energy, your excuses, or your circumstances. Discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being reliable. It is about building a standard for yourself that does not change just because your emotions do. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it is something extreme, something painful, something only a few can maintain. But real discipline is simple. It is doing what you said you would do, even when it becomes inconvenient. It is keeping promises to yourself, especially on the days when breaking them feels easier. Because every time you break that promise, you weaken your self-trust. And every time you keep it, you strengthen it. Emotion will tell you to rest when you should work. It will tell you to quit when things get uncomfortable. It will convince you that you deserve a break before you have earned it. And sometimes, emotion will even disguise itself as logic, giving you reasons that sound valid but lead you away from your goals. That is why discipline matters. It protects you from your own impulses. It creates structure where emotion creates chaos. When you build discipline, you remove negotiation. You stop asking yourself whether you should do the work. You already know the answer. That decision has been made in advance. And because of that, your energy is not wasted on debating with yourself. It is focused on execution. This is where consistency is born, not from motivation, but from commitment. There will be days when you feel unstoppable. On those days, discipline keeps you grounded so you do not become careless. There will also be days when you feel like giving up. On those days, discipline keeps you moving so you do not fall behind. It balances you. It keeps you steady in a world that is constantly pulling you in different directions. The people who succeed are not always the most talented or the most intelligent. They are the ones who show up the most. They are the ones who continue when it becomes boring, when it becomes repetitive, when it stops being exciting. Because real growth is not found in moments of intensity. It is found in moments of repetition. Doing the same thing again and again until it becomes part of who you are. Discipline also builds identity. Every action you repeat becomes a signal of who you believe you are. When you act with discipline, you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who is dependable, someone who does not quit easily. And that identity reinforces your behavior. It creates a cycle where your actions shape your mindset, and your mindset strengthens your actions. Emotion will always be part of your life. It is human. It gives you passion, energy, and connection. But it cannot be your leader. Because emotions change, and if your direction changes with them, you will never stay on course long enough to reach your destination. Discipline must lead, and emotion must follow. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel confident. You do not need to feel motivated. You only need to decide and then act on that decision repeatedly until it becomes automatic. Because in the end, it is not how you feel that shapes your life. It is what you do consistently that defines who you become. The life you want exists in the space most people avoid. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, you train yourself to stay exactly where you are. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the signal. It is the moment where growth becomes possible and transformation begins to take shape. Most people misunderstand this feeling. They interpret discomfort as something wrong, something to escape, something that must be eliminated as quickly as possible. But what they are really escaping is the very process that would make them stronger, sharper, and more capable. Comfort feels safe, but it quietly keeps you stuck. Discomfort feels difficult, but it moves you forward in ways comfort never can. Every time you choose the easy option, you reinforce a pattern. You teach your mind that struggle is something to avoid. You build a habit of retreat instead of progress. And over time, that habit becomes your identity. You begin to believe that you are someone who hesitates, someone who waits, someone who steps back when things get hard, not because you were born that way, but because you practiced it repeatedly. The mind learns through repetition, and what you repeat becomes who you are. Discomfort challenges that pattern. It interrupts the automatic response to step back and replace it with a deliberate decision to step forward. It forces you to confront uncertainty, to operate without guarantees, to act without the comfort of knowing exactly how things will turn out. That is where real confidence is built, not in moments where everything is predictable, but in moments where you prove to yourself that you can handle what you once feared. Growth is never convenient. It does not arrive when you feel ready or when the conditions are perfect. It arrives when you push beyond what is familiar. That push creates tension, and that tension is necessary. Just like a muscle grows under resistance, your mindset evolves under pressure. Without that pressure, there is no reason to adapt, no reason to improve, no reason to become more than you are right now. The problem is not that discomfort is too hard. The problem is that most people have trained themselves to avoid it for too long. They have built lives around ease, around predictability, around staying within limits that feel manageable. And when something challenges those limits, it feels overwhelming, not because it actually is, but because they are not used to it. What feels impossible today often becomes manageable tomorrow if you are willing to face it repeatedly. When you begin to embrace discomfort, something shifts. You stop seeing challenges as threats and start seeing them as opportunities. You stop asking how to avoid difficulty and start asking what it can teach you. This shift changes everything, because now, instead of shrinking in the face of pressure, you expand. Instead of resisting growth, you move toward it. Discomfort also reveals truth. It exposes your weaknesses, your doubts, your habits. It shows you exactly where you need to improve. And while that can be uncomfortable, it is also incredibly valuable, because you cannot fix what you refuse to see. Avoiding discomfort may protect your ego in the short term, but it limits your potential in the long term. Facing discomfort may challenge you in the moment, but it unlocks growth that stays with you. There will never be a point where discomfort disappears completely. Every new level brings new challenges, new uncertainties, new forms of pressure. But as you continue to face it, your relationship with it changes. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel normal. What once caused fear begins to create focus. And what once made you hesitate begins to drive you forward. You do not need to eliminate discomfort to succeed. You need to understand it, accept it, and use it. Because the path to strength, confidence, and growth has always been built on one simple decision repeated over time. The decision to walk toward what is hard instead of away from it. The moment you stop blaming everything around you is the exact moment you take back control over everything within you. Blame feels good in the moment because it protects your ego. It gives you a reason, an excuse, a story that explains why things are not working. It points outward and says the problem is somewhere else, someone else, something beyond your control. And while that may feel comforting, it quietly takes your power away, because if the problem is always outside of you, then the solution is never in your hands. You become dependent on circumstances changing instead of deciding to change yourself. Ownership flips that completely. It is not about accepting fault for everything in a negative way. It's about accepting responsibility in a powerful way. It is about recognizing that while you may not control every situation, you always control your response to it. And that response is where your influence begins. When you take ownership, you stop waiting. You stop hoping things will improve on their own. You start acting, adjusting, learning, and moving forward with intention. Most people resist ownership because it is uncomfortable. It removes the safety net of excuses. It forces you to confront your habits, your decisions, and the patterns you have created. It asks you to look in the mirror and acknowledge that some of the outcomes you are experiencing are a result of your own actions or inactions. That level of honesty is not easy, but it is necessary. Because without it, nothing changes. When you begin to take ownership, you start to see your life differently. Challenges stop feeling like unfair obstacles and start feeling like situations you can influence. Instead of asking why something happened, you start asking what you can do about it. This shift in thinking moves you from a passive position to an active one. It gives you direction, it gives you purpose, and most importantly, it gives you control. Ownership also builds trust within yourself. Every time you take responsibility and follow through, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. That belief becomes a foundation. It allows you to face bigger challenges because you know you will not abandon yourself when things get difficult. Without ownership, that trust never develops. You begin to doubt your ability to handle pressure, to adapt, to grow. There is a difference between responsibility and blame. Blame focuses on the past and keeps you stuck there. Responsibility focuses on the present and moves you forward. You can spend time analyzing who or what caused a problem, or you can spend that same time creating a solution. One keeps you trapped. The other creates progress. Ownership is choosing progress, even when it would be easier to stay stuck. When you adopt ownership as a mindset, excuses begin to lose their power. You no longer justify delays or avoid difficult decisions. You recognize that every choice you make either moves you closer to your goals or further away from them. That awareness changes your behavior. It sharpens your focus. It increases your accountability. And over time, it transforms your results. Ownership does not mean everything will go perfectly. You will still face setbacks, mistakes, and unexpected challenges. But the difference is how you respond. Instead of feeling defeated, you look for the lesson. Instead of giving up, you adjust your approach. Instead of blaming, you build. That approach creates resilience because you are no longer dependent on perfect conditions to move forward. It also changes how others see you. People trust those who take responsibility. They respect those who do not hide behind excuses. They are drawn to those who step up even when things go wrong. Ownership is not just a personal advantage. It becomes a leadership quality. It influences how you show up in every area of your life. At the core of it all, ownership is about power, not power over others, but power over yourself, your decisions, your actions, your mindset. It is understanding that while you cannot control everything, you can always control something. And that something is enough to create change, because the moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment you stop waiting for things to happen and start making them happen. Short bursts of effort feel powerful, but steady repetition is what actually builds results that last. Intensity is attractive because it feels like progress. It looks impressive, it creates a sense of urgency, and it gives you the illusion that you are moving faster than everyone else. You push hard for a day, maybe a week, and it feels like everything is changing, but intensity without consistency fades quickly. It burns energy without building a foundation. And when that energy runs out, so does your progress. Consistency is different. It is quieter, less exciting, and often overlooked. It does not rely on motivation or perfect conditions. It shows up in small actions repeated over time. It is choosing to continue when the excitement disappears, when the results are not immediate, and when the work starts to feel routine. That is where most people stop. Not because they cannot continue, but because it no longer feels rewarding in the moment. The problem with intensity is that it is difficult to sustain. It demands everything all at once, and eventually that demand becomes too much. Life happens, energy drops, distractions appear, and the pace you set becomes unrealistic. When you cannot maintain it, you feel like you have failed, even though the real issue was the approach, not your ability. This creates a cycle of starting strong and stopping early, repeating the same pattern without ever reaching a meaningful outcome. Consistency removes that cycle. It replaces extremes with stability. Instead of doing everything at once, you do something regularly. Instead of chasing big moments, you build daily habits. These habits compound over time. They may seem small in isolation, but together they create momentum that becomes difficult to stop. Progress built this way is not dependent on how you feel or what is happening around you. It is built on structure and repetition. There is a psychological shift that happens when you commit to consistency. You stop measuring success by how much you do in one moment and start measuring it by how often you show up. This shift reduces pressure. It allows you to focus on the process instead of constantly chasing results. And when you focus on the process, results begin to take care of themselves. Consistency also builds trust within yourself. Every time you follow through, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable. You become someone who does what they say they will do. That identity matters because it influences future behavior. When you see yourself as consistent, you are more likely to continue acting that way. It becomes part of who you are, not just something you try to do occasionally. Another advantage of consistency is adaptability. When you are consistent, you create opportunities to learn and adjust. You see what works and what does not. You refine your approach over time. Intensity does not allow for that level of awareness because it is focused on speed rather than improvement. Consistency slows things down just enough for growth to become intentional. Many people underestimate the power of small actions because they are looking for immediate results. They want visible change quickly, and when they do not see it, they lose interest. But real change is often invisible at first. It happens beneath the surface, building gradually until it reaches a point where it can no longer be ignored. That is the nature of consistency. It works quietly until it becomes undeniable. There will be days when you do not feel like showing up. Days when the effort feels pointless and the progress feels too slow, those are the days that matter most. Because consistency is not proven when it is easy. It is proven when it is difficult. It is proven when you continue despite resistance, despite doubt, despite the lack of immediate reward. Over time, consistency creates a rhythm. It turns effort into habit and habit into identity. What once required discipline begins to feel natural. You no longer rely on motivation to take action because action has become automatic. This is where long-term success is built. Not in moments of extreme effort, but in patterns of steady behavior. Because in the end, it is not the intensity of what you do once that shapes your future. It is the consistency of what you do every single day. People closest to you shape your thoughts, your standards, and your future more than any plan or goal ever will. You do not think in isolation. Your mindset is not created in a vacuum. It is influenced, shaped, and reinforced by the people you spend the most time with. Every conversation, every opinion, every reaction you are exposed to begins to form a pattern in your mind. And over time, that pattern becomes your normal. That is why your inner circle matters more than most people realize. It is not just about who you like being around. It is about who you are becoming because of them. Most people underestimate this influence because it is subtle. It does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens slowly through repeated exposure. If you are surrounded by people who complain, you begin to notice problems more than possibilities. If you are surrounded by people who avoid responsibility, you start to justify your own excuses. If you are surrounded by people who settle, you begin to lower your own standards without even realizing it. This is not weakness, it is human nature. We adapt to the environment we are placed in. Protecting your inner circle is not about cutting people off in a careless or arrogant way. It is about being intentional. It is about recognizing that access to your time, your energy, and your attention is valuable. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to those things. You have to decide who influences you and who does not. Because if you do not make that decision consciously, it will be made for you by default. There is a difference between support and comfort. Some people support your growth. They challenge you, they hold you accountable, they push you to think differently. Others only offer comfort. They tell you what you want to hear, they validate your excuses, they keep you exactly where you are because it is easier for them. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it rarely leads to progress. Support may feel uncomfortable at times, but it is what helps you evolve. A strong inner circle is not built on agreement. It is built on honesty and growth. It includes people who are willing to tell you the truth, even when it is not easy to hear. It includes people who are working on themselves, who are striving for something more, who are not satisfied with staying the same. Being around that kind of energy changes you. It raises your standards. It expands your perspective. It forces you to grow in ways you would not on your own. At the same time, protecting your inner circle also means protecting your mental space from negativity. Not all negativity is loud. Sometimes it is disguised as sarcasm, doubt, or subtle criticism. It plants small seeds of uncertainty that grow over time if left unchecked. You have to be aware of what you allow into your mind, because once those ideas take hold, they begin to influence your decisions and your confidence. This does not mean you avoid all criticism or surround yourself only with positivity. It means you become selective. You choose feedback that helps you improve, not feedback that holds you back. You listen to voices that are aligned with growth, not voices that are rooted in fear or limitation. This level of awareness is what separates intentional growth from accidental stagnation. Your inner circle also reflects your own standards. If you tolerate negativity, excuses, or lack of effort, it often means you are accepting those things within yourself. When you raise your standards, your environment begins to shift. Some people will grow with you, others will drift away. That is part of the process. Growth requires change, and change often requires distance from what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. The goal is not to have a large circle. The goal is to have the right circle. A few people who push you forward are more valuable than many who keep you in place. Quality matters more than quantity. Depth matters more than appearance. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how many people are around you. It is about how the people around you influence the person you are becoming. It's you.